Welcome to UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk with Dr. Jenna Blasi. I'm Dr. Jenna. I spent years crafting ways to help women thrive, and I want to help you do the same. On this podcast, we dive deep into health at every level, focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is where real conversations meet transformational wellness. We'll be talking about all the things that truly matter, from nutrition and fitness to lifestyle, mindset, and personal development. Plus, the real deal on managing stress and navigating menopause. So if you're ready to elevate your health journey with authentic, transformative insights, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Dr. Jenna. Welcome back to UPLEVEL. Today we're going to dive into how to know when to push and when to pull back. These last several episodes and last month, I talked a lot about the overcomplication of health and the messaging out there. It's like, do this at this time and that time. And I've talked to people who've been put on supplement protocols where they have to wake up in the middle of the night and take this thing at 2 a.m. and take this one 20 minutes after we eat. And like, oh my gosh, it's no wonder that people just like don't know what to do or give up on this. And so in that realm of overcomplication, then we have like, how do we simplify? And when we look at how do we simplify, one of the things that I am focused on this month with you all is application and implementation. And so today I want to focus on how do we know when we need to push a little harder and when our body is actually telling us to pull back. And so honestly, I think that this piece can be a game changer because many of us fall into maybe procrastination or I don't feel motivated or I think I'm lazy, but then also go, push. And so what I'm seeing is that one of the biggest areas where women struggle with, there's the information piece, which I tried to tackle last month of just like, what do I do? But the bigger piece is not just knowing what to do for their health, or I should say the other piece. So there's not the issue of just knowing what to do for your health, but knowing how to interpret what your body is telling you. Should I push through this workout or should I rest? Am I actually exhausted or am I dysregulated and avoiding discomfort, right? Avoiding getting out of my comfort zone. Do I need more discipline or more recovery? And to speak to what I addressed last month, should I simplify or do I actually need more structure? I think many women are swinging between two extremes. They are pushing too hard and they're burning out, or they're pulling back so much that they lose momentum and then they lose trust in themselves, integrity in themselves. And so the real skill, and this is what I want to dive into and unpack today, is learning how to tell the difference. So we talked last month a lot about why health information itself feels so confusing. So now I want to look at why does knowing this distinction, knowing when to pull back and when to push, feel so confusing. All right. So health advice online is very black and white. We've talked about this. It's not nuanced. It's listen to your body, push yourself, rest more, be disciplined, slow down, optimize harder, right? Speed up. But real physiology and real life are more nuanced than that. Perimenopause changes. Perimenopause and menopausal changes affect this. Stress physiology affects this. Emotional exhaustion. Nervous system dysregulation, modern day overwhelm of, we've got all this tech to help us, but it becomes a part-time job to try to manage it. I know that my email gives me a little bit of anxiety. It's just like it's disorganized and keeping up with it. And then there's information overload. So many women no longer know, and this, you might feel that this applies to you, whether a signal from your body is wisdom or stress or fear or fatigue or under recovery or avoidance or simply discomfort from growth. And this confusion can keep people stuck, right? This confusion can keep you stuck. And so when you look at these pieces of real things going on with physiology, right? Perimenopausal and menopausal changes are real. The way that the hormones are shifting is real, and that's affecting how you feel and how you manage stress and what your resilience looks like. The things that stress does to the body, that's real. And so all of these things we have to kind of factor in, all right? So I want to segment these and look at when pushing harder helps and when pulling back is appropriate, and break down the difference between intuition and reactivity, and really help you determine what are some questions you can ask yourself to figure this out. How do you start to distinguish? And I would say also go back and listen to my episode on intuition versus fear. I think that's a good one to learn where we're being guided and how to listen to that guidance. So when does pushing harder help? And this is important because many wellness spaces overcorrect towards fragility. I see this as well in when we look at telling women to change their fitness regime based on their menstrual cycle. All right. Because you have women, like the average, the percentage of women who are under exercising or not moving their bodies at all is huge. I think, what was that statistic I gave? It's like 20 to 25% of women are actually strength training. And so this whole let's overcomplicate it based on your cycle and the time of day and should we fast or should we not fast? Oh my gosh, let's just get moving. I mean, listen to your body. If you need recovery in that premenstrual phase, listen to your body. But the research doesn't support that women need to have completely different training regimes in perimenopause, menopause, before your cycle, if you're a cycling female, etc. And so then we kind of go towards fragility. Oh, you know what? You're in your premenstrual cycle. You just don't do anything. You might raise your cortisol and you might overstress your body. So let's talk about when challenging yourself is actually appropriate. All right. When is pushing harder helpful? Because not all discomfort is harm. And this can be a challenging distinction to make, because I always want you to listen to your body. Always. Don't care what the research says if your body is telling you something else, right? Let's cultivate that body wisdom. But the emotional piece can override and feel like body wisdom. The nervous system dysregulation and the changing hormones can feel like body wisdom, and maybe it's not. Okay, so where might challenge be appropriate? When you're actually rebuilding strength. You're trying to build strength. So you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to challenge your muscles. You've got to progress your workouts. If you're trying to improve your conditioning, improve your cardiovascular capacity, there's going to be discomfort in either of those things. It's going to require you kind of push through those difficult days, those last 2 reps, that extra whatever. It's kind of like, I've never trained for a marathon, but if I were training for a marathon, I imagine that they map it out and you're going to start with this many miles and then add some more and then add some more and add some more in a training regime that is looking at that whole picture. And you're increasing. Just like when I do a strength program, there's a progression in each program that I'm doing, in the exercises, in the weights that I'm adding, or the reps. And so if you're trying to improve your conditioning or rebuild strength, then you're going to want to push harder. It's going to be uncomfortable. But that is how you improve your speed or improve your strength or improve your agility, etc. HIIT is amazing for the body. HIIT is important. Cardiovascular fitness is important, but you don't jump in and do crazy hit and end up getting injured, and then you can't do anything, right? You work your way up. You increase your hit intervals. You decrease your recovery. But initially, you're going to have probably smaller hit or sit and longer recovery. And then as you improve, it's uncomfortable. There's times when I'm doing any type of exercise and I just wanted to stop, but we have to push. If you're trying to increase your resilience, then pushing harder might be appropriate. Again, we don't want to be burnt out, but we have to understand that discomfort is where the growth happens in all realms. I'm big on mindset work and I do separate mindset programs. And this has been one of my biggest lessons, is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Anytime I'm growing personally, as a mom, as a person, as a wife, as a business owner, as a leader, whatever it is, it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. And like crap will come out of the woodwork at you because that's how we grow. We don't grow in our comfort zone. Think of anything amazing you've ever achieved. Were you really in your comfort zone? I would argue no. I can't think of anything great and wonderful in my life that wasn't uncomfortable, including giving birth to my children, right? And so if we want to improve, for example, our stress resiliency, we don't do that on the beach. I mean, that's recovery mode, okay? But I mean, we're not improving our capacity for stress without adding some stress. And like, I'm working a lot right now on efficiencies and how to be more efficient and improve my communication, which is ironic because I feel like today I'm not communicating as clearly as I would like. Because as you know, I don't script these episodes. And so sometimes I fumble over my words and then I'm like, do I re-record this so it's a little clearer? But I want you all to also see that this is not about perfectionism. Life is not about perfectionism. So I want there to be a certain realness to these podcasts where you're not just hearing this beautiful flow and I'm completely articulate. That would be nice, but that's also not reality. We have our ups and downs. And so to improve resilience, you practice, you push, you add on. How does a juggler learn to juggle? They start with, I don't know, I'm not a juggler, 2 balls, and then they add a third, and then they add a fourth. And then, you get that one plate spinning and then you add another. So I'm working on efficiencies within myself and within my team right now. And we can feel like we're at max capacity, but we're not. We're not even near max capacity. And I'm speaking to all of you as well. As humans, our spiritual DNA is perfect. We are nowhere near our max capacity. How do we expand that capacity? We change our perception, we change our attitude, and we push a little bit. We push. If I want to try to do something faster, I have to give myself a smaller time frame because we will use the space we have. We will fill the space we have. So if you want to increase your resilience, you have to push a little harder. You have to add that stress, pressure, and then growth. Challenge might be appropriate when you're developing consistency, right? You're trying to be consistent. So you got to keep the flame on. You got to keep your foot on the gas. If you're trying to develop consistency and you keep backing off and going, today I think I need to recover. Today I need to rest. No, these might be areas where you are going to push harder and it's going to be helpful. Tolerating discomfort. That's an area where you push harder. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I've told this story, I don't know if I've told it on my podcast, but when I was giving birth to my son, Kaiden, so I have 2 kids, and I was in residency at the time. No, I had just completed my 2nd year of residency, but I was still working. He came 3 weeks early. I was supposed to teach spin that night. I was covering rotations at the naturopathic college, and I was supposed to be at work that day, but I had a home birth in our 3rd floor walk-up apartment. And I remember partway through the birth, I was like, why did I decide to do this naturally? I was like, whose idea was this? And I was so uncomfortable. And I remember thinking, I felt like I was in between a rock and a hard place. Because I knew that if I pushed harder, it was going to hurt more. I also knew if I didn't push, that this was going to be dragged out. Like I had to get him out, right? And so I was like, oh, if I push harder, the discomfort and the pain are going to increase. But if I don't, I'm not birthing my child. And so, we have to learn to tolerate some discomfort, because on the other side of that discomfort was a beautiful baby boy. And I remember I would be pushing, and then I told my midwife and my husband who was there, I would say, I can't push anymore. And then I would think to myself, yes, I can, right? Capacity. Yes, I can. And then I'd give it that, rah! And my husband later, he said, you give birth the way you teach fitness classes. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I realized, I'll say that I'm done. I can't do another rep, or I'll tell people we're done. And then I'll think, no, we got a little more. Let's squeeze out 10 more seconds. My class did not like when I would do that. But I think that's what he meant, is I was like, I'm done. And then I was like, no, come on. You got a little more in you. So tolerate some discomfort. That's an area to push. Maintaining routines during imperfect weeks. That is an area where pushing harder might help, because you're keeping integrity with yourself. Again, when everything's calm, when everything's perfect, when everything's easy to do, easy to be consistent and do your quote unquote plan, we're not really building resilience. We're not showing ourselves we can do things when things are hard. They say if you want to know a person's true character, see how they respond under stress, right? Or maybe, how are you when you're sleep deprived? And so can we be the same calm or kind or whatever it is person? And so when you have those imperfect weeks where stress has increased, responsibilities have increased, like May is always a crazy month, end of year, school, and you can maintain some kind of routine, that's going to be a win. It's going to be a huge win. So that would be an area where pushing harder might be a good idea. And then if you're learning emotional regulation, we don't, again, just want to do that in the calm. We want to learn that when it's hard. Learn that through tough times. When things get really challenging in my life and it feels like, oh my gosh, there's this bigger part of me that I've cultivated over the years that says, okay, but this is cool, because you're growing, you're building resilience, you're learning. And that is super impactful. And I was listening to, I think it was Alex Hormozy was talking about, they had people write up like how, like where their morals or where their generosity was around like helping other people. And then they divided these people who said like they love to help people and be there for other people and whatnot. And they divided them into 3 groups, and they were sending them to a meeting or a seminar or something. And so the first group was really early, and the second group was like kind of right on time, and the third group was late. And then they put somebody in the hallway where these folks were going to get to wherever they were headed, and who was like on the ground, had fallen. And they looked at who was going to stop to help this person. And they found that the people that were willing to stop to help, it had nothing to do with how they graded themselves in that survey or whatever that was on their willingness to help. Like, let's say you're like, I'm a 10 out of 10, I'll help people. And then, someone else's, whatever their grading system was, it didn't have anything to do with that. People that graded themselves high, what mattered more was which group they were in. So guess which group actually stopped to help? The group that was early. They were more likely to stop to help the person that was on the ground. The group that was on time were a little bit less likely. And the group that was late, I don't even know if anybody from that group helped. Again, I don't completely remember all of the details, but the gist being, now the context of this conversation, which again, I think was Alex Hormozy's podcast, was preparation. Like opportunity is about openness to opportunities coming in, but about preparation. Because if you're not ready to do something with the opportunity, it goes by. But in this example, the reason I'm bringing it up is that idea of improving resilience. So if somebody's late, they're not helping that person. Even if they graded themselves a 10 out of 10 on the type of person who would stop and help someone, If they're late, they're not doing it. So we don't train to be our best selves when we're on time. I mean, when we're early, right? In this example, you're early, you're like, I got time, I'll help this person. Easy peasy to be the good person, right? When you're early. But as soon as life is challenged in that, like, you're getting there right on time or you're late, you're not going to do the things. So if we want to improve, the improvement comes in sort of challenging ourselves in those more challenging times. Like, if you're truly the type of person that helps someone 10 out of 10, you're going to do it even if you're late, or at the very least when you're right on time, because that's the priority of who you are. So, but that particular study showed that that's not actually how that correlates. So what I would say in that particular example, because again, I'm feeling like it's maybe not completely connected, might be a slight, not the best analogy, is two things. Yes, be who you are in all situations. That's going to improve your resilience. If you're truly a person that likes to help people, train yourself to do it regardless. And then the other piece would be improving the structure of your life so that we are always, quote unquote, early. And I don't mean that literally, in that we're prepared. We are prepared. So when you train yourself to be more resilient, when you train yourself to rebuild your strength and improve your conditioning, you are working on your preparedness for when life is challenging, that you actually are ready to navigate that. Or, to Alex's example, an amazing opportunity comes through and you can grab it because you're not running around like a, chicken with its head cut off. All right. So, and if that was a tangent that was not relevant, then I apologize. All right. So, just some more examples of, like, not all discomfort is harm. Resistance training, adaptation, behavior change, discomfort, getting back into routines. It's not usually comfortable. Setting boundaries. Ooh, setting boundaries. Not comfortable, 100% necessary. Raising your standards. Might be a little uncomfortable. You got to do it. Reducing emotional eating. Sleeping on schedule. Walking even when you're unmotivated. Exercising when you're unmotivated. These are examples of discomfort, but they're not harmful discomfort. They're going to lead to good things. So, to sum it up, sometimes growth feels uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because your nervous system prefers familiarity. Your subconscious mind prefers familiarity. And in fact, this is where, like, when Bob Proctor used to talk about the terror barrier all the time. I love talking about the terror barrier because it is that growth will feel uncomfortable, and that terror barrier will make it feel like something's wrong. I'm not supposed to do this. Oh my gosh, I've hit a little obstacle. I have to run back to safety. The little voice in your head, this isn't right. This isn't good for me. I shouldn't do this. Our paradigm, our subconscious mind, our patterns are strong, and they want to keep you safe, and safe means stuck where you are. So you've got to get uncomfortable to actually get where you want to go. Okay, now on the flip side, let's look at when pulling back is appropriate. There is true under recovery. People that are not giving their bodies time to recover. Go, 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 go. So look at, is there true under recovery? There's accumulated stress load. Accumulated stress load where you should not push anymore. Illness. And that when an illness is coming on, because I taught fitness classes for years, it was always interesting because exercise will improve your immune system, but pushing too hard when you're on the brink of illness, or if you're ill, could cause further exhaustion and make it worse. And that was always a balance for me if I was starting to not feel well. Like, okay, is a little bit of exercise actually going to help my immune system and help me not get sick? Or is this going to push me over the edge because what my body's asking for is more rest? So illness, sleep deprivation. Or if you're running on empty, we don't want to push. Emotional overwhelm. That might be a time to pull back because it could break you to push. Hormonal transitions. So back to that, cycle, perimenopause, menopause. There might be a time to pull back you might be really depleted before your cycle, or just emotionally dysregulated around perimenopause to a point where you need to calm things down, you need to simplify. Overtraining, so that goes with like true under recovery is often coupled with overtraining. Like that is a real thing, overtraining. Rigidity, like if you're just like, I've got to be perfect, go, and everything is too boundaried, everything is too structured, it's creating more stress. Pulling back might be helpful. Hypervigilance and excessive self-pressure, similar to rigidity. Like you're never releasing the grip. These are areas where pulling back might absolutely be appropriate. And when it's appropriate, then we should make the distinction that pulling back is not the same as quitting. And I think a lot of people feel that it is. So some examples of where pulling back is not the same as quitting. And actually, I want to make a further distinction. You might feel like pulling back is quitting, or you might confuse the need to pull back with quitting, meaning you don't pull back, you actually just stop. You actually do quit. All right. So this is where if you view it as quitting, then that's a perfectionism piece. Oh, I wanted to work out 5 days this week and I only did 3. So I blew it. Or, oh, I had a piece of cake and I was trying to eat healthy. So I blew it, which will cause you to either perceive that you've failed or cause you to completely quit. So some examples, modifying your workouts. I've talked about modifying your workouts 100% is going to help you stay on track and stay in integrity, but manage those life changes when stress is different, when demands are different. So modifying workouts, shortening your sessions. Now, this could be workout sessions. This could be just something else that you're doing. If you're doing personal development work, that could be like, oh my gosh, like maybe you don't have an hour for that or a half an hour that particular week or that day. Focusing on recovery basics. Sometimes we pull back and we just focus on recovery. Last year when I did 2 really hard workout programs back to back, and I think the first one was 12 weeks and the second one was 6 weeks, I think. So it was something like 18 to 20 weeks of just going pretty intensely. And so then I went in to maintenance. And then I thought, no, you know what? Let me actually focus on some foundationals. Let me do just a little bit of like a week of a recovery basics. So you pull back, but you're not quitting, you're not stopping. Simplifying nutrition temporarily. Nutrition can get really overcomplicated for people. And so pulling back doesn't mean throwing the towel in and just having whatever. It might just mean simplifying it temporarily. And then reducing intensity overall without abandoning your routines. If you've got a sleep hygiene routine, an exercise routine, a personal development, journaling, mindfulness, whatever, all of those routines, let's not abandon them, but maybe reduce the intensity, maybe shorten the session, scale back on, the intensity of it. So those are areas where pulling back might really be appropriate and helpful. So healthy people don't avoid hard seasons, but they learn how to adapt to them without abandoning themselves. And so those of you that are still in that all or nothing perfectionism, if you haven't listened to my podcasts on all or nothing or perfectionism, go back and do that. But the people that are really successful, it's not this huge up and down. Okay, that's the all or nothing in the perfectionism. I'm doing all the things and then I'm not. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing the things for X number of months and then it's tax season or then it's this season and everything goes by the wayside. We have to learn how to adapt without abandoning ourselves. And healthy people, successful people, they understand that pattern. And so those routines are year round. They just adapt and modify. Okay, this is going a little bit long, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up, but there's still a few more things I want to discuss. The difference between intuition and reactivity. This is gold. If you can learn when it's intuition and when it's not. So like many of you will say, oh, I'm listening to my body. But sometimes what you're actually listening to is anxiety overwhelm, fear, your paradigm, emotional exhaustion, perfectionism, avoidance, or temporary discomfort. So we have to learn to distinguish those. And like I said, in my episode on intuition, I dive into that a little bit more. But I watch people think that they're listening or they're like, well, oh, you know what my intuition says? And I can see that it's their emotional selves. It's their anxiety. That happens often around money as well. This fear of like investing, even though it's something that's going to expand you and get you closer to your goals. And then you feel like you're not supposed to, but it's actually just the discomfort. It's just the discomfort. We all have it. But are you going to move forward with the discomfort and with the fear? Or are you going to give into that fear, which feels really real, but that's your subconscious, that's your paradigm, that's your safe self. And then you're not going to get the goals that you want. And then other times people do ignore legitimate body signals because they're afraid of being lazy. So just learning to distinguish, right? Learning to distinguish. So patterns can give you insight. So if you look at your emotional state versus your physiological state, look at pattern recognition over time, knowing what your body is actually saying and the context of it. And just cultivating self-awareness. I think as the more that we practice this, the more self-aware and honest reflection, being able to examine and look and say, is this true? Is this true? And is it mine? Like, do I believe that? Like, do I know this? Or is this just coming from somewhere else or what other people tell me I should or should not be doing? So having context, looking at trends versus isolated moments in time. So there's a moment where you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed and maybe that feels like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to pull back. But maybe you're not. And so here's some questions that will help you decide, because I feel like this section here of looking at these different things could probably be its own episode. So here's some questions to help you decide, because I want this to really be practical for you. So one question, is this discomfort harmful or is it just uncomfortable? 2, am I depleted or dysregulated? Because if we're dysregulated, then actually the routine is going to help regulate the breathing through and keeping certain things in place versus like if you're truly depleted. Number 3, what would help me feel more grounded 24 hours from now? Or sometimes I'll ask myself, would I feel better? Like, how am I going to feel if I do this versus don't do this? Like, if I don't do it, will I actually feel better? Will that give me a reset? Will that give me some space? Or will I be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't do that? And then if I did it, will I actually feel better if I do it? So you can ask it sort of immediate, like, if I exercise, what will I really feel like after I've done this or by the end of the day? Or on a broader, from a broader lens, what would help me feel more grounded 24 hours from now? Number 4, am I reacting emotionally or responding intentionally? Is this an emotional reaction or am I responding intentionally? And number 5, what would consistency look like in this season? Not my best season, in this season. This is such an important question. Not your ideal, right? What would consistency look like for what's going on right now? Because as we know, the things that sustainable health actually requires is learning these things, okay? So long-term health, I've talked about this a lot, long-term health is not built by consistently pushing or by constantly retreating. Stop, start, up, down, on, off. Neither of those, that's not health. It's built by learning flexibility, discernment, adaptability, self-awareness, being able to ask the honest questions without judging yourself, resilience, and recalibration. It's like that GPS, recalculating. You can still get there, but you got to stay on the road. You got to keep moving. So remember, the goal isn't becoming someone who always gets it perfectly right. The goal is becoming someone who can stay connected to themselves. I just met with someone yesterday who said, I just feel disconnected from myself. The goal is becoming someone who can stay connected to themselves and continue moving forward, even when life, hormones, stress, or circumstances shift. That's what sustainable health actually looks like. So, thank you so much for joining me. If you are enjoying these episodes, please hit subscribe, save the episodes, share them with friends, leave us a 5-star review. And I hope you found this super useful. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your health journey. One that nourishes not just your body, but your mind and spirit as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please leave a review. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving. And remember, true wellness is a journey, and you are on the right path.